Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of What's Up. Alright, sorry for the delay for the podcast. There were some things that happened, things got pushed back, but we're back, don't worry. And so today we're going to be talking about being Asian American because little did we know that this month is actually the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, which I thought, us being Asian American, that, we should bring some awareness as well as some talking points. And so we're just going to go over a couple like important facts that we think you guys should know about it, and then as well as we'll just talk, I guess. So
Yeah, hey everybody. Glad to be back. So yeah, as Youngjun was mentioning, I've actually never heard of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month before in my how many years of existence. And I'm actually interested in hearing more about what is involved in this month. Like what's it celebrating really? Do you have any ideas why it's celebrated?
Well, let me tell you, June. So,
Hey,
Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, otherwise shortened as APAM, was actually first created. It started out in 1977 as APAM, or Asian Pacific American Heritage Week. It's a mouthful. So there was this lady named Jeannie Ju, whose great grandfather was actually from China, and she realized that even though at the time there was already like Black History Month and Hispanic Heritage Week, there wasn't any similar thing for Asian Americans, and so she pretty much spearheaded the efforts to start this movement. And so in 1977, Asian Pacific American Heritage Week was created, and then later on in 1992, the month was finally established. And so the purpose of this Asian Pacific American Heritage Month is to recognize the rich heritage of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, and also their important contributions to developing America. Yes,
wow, that's a mouthful. Wow, but
it's really a mouthful.
But yeah, no, I mean, a huge shout out to, I guess, the Asian Americans and also the Asians who are living in America. I
Mm,
think that just sort of adds to the overall multi-ethnicity of America, and what makes this country so great sometimes is just the number of cultures in it. So I guess thanks to all of our kin and Asian Americans and
and
Pacific Islanders out there.
mhm. Yeah, it's actually the name itself is pretty interesting because I think like
Hmm.
when people think of Asian Americans, usually they think of like the more like majority minorities, I guess, like like Chinese
Yeah.
Americans, Korean Americans, but there's actually like so many different Asian Americans, and so even in the name, it's like Asian and Pacific Islander. Uh, oh shoot, I messed up the name. It's so there's actually like three names.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly.
right.
It's not even your fault. It's totally yeah, go ahead, Sungin. You're saying there are three names?
Yeah, there's like three different names. They're all combination of Asian or Asian American or Pacific Islander or Pacific Islander American History Month or Heritage Month. But anyway, yeah, even the name is like, Pacific Islanders. It's like they have that in the name as well. It's not just like, one specific Asian American. So, yeah, I
Right.
think,
Encompasses a wide variety.
yeah, exactly.
Just to tell our viewers, we spent a solid 30 minutes just trying to figure out and consolidate what the name of this month was. So like,
That's so
I mean,
true. That's
as
very true.
college, yeah, as recent college grads, we always refer to Wikipedia as our main data source, and they have the name as Asian and Pacific Islander American Heritage Month. But the health department says it's Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. But then another part of the government says it's Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. So you can clearly see where our dilemma was in trying to figure out this name.
We're just using the shortest one, which is Asian
Exactly.
Pacific American Heritage Month, or
Right.
maybe we should just say APAM. It might be shorter.
Yeah, let's just say
APAM is good.
APAM.
APAM.
Yeah,
We
that,
created
that's
this. APAM.
that's yeah.
APAM is us.
Mm,
We
I
created
like
APAM.
copyright.
APAM.
Yeah, that's right. If anyone's trying to use APAM, it's ours.
So,
Um,
I mean, I guess being Asian American is it's seen as a there's been some negatives recently, I feel like, with the whole coronavirus epidemic. I feel like there's been a lot more stigmatism towards being Asian American. I don't know if you
right.
guys have felt like that or read about that in the news at all.
Yeah, I think I remember watching a video about this African American person yelling at an old like Chinese man
Mm-hmm.
um and telling him to go like back to his country and like bring back like and like bring the disease with him and stuff. And
Wow.
so I just see a lot of that where you just like people are just like yelling at like Asian Americans and telling them because it's like apparently our fault that we brought the disease over. So I think yeah, just because of the coronavirus, more Asian Americans are being attacked for.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
sort of a funny slash not funny story. My girlfriend who lives in New York City, where obviously the pandemic is a bit more of a huge outbreak, but she's Chinese American, and I remember she was telling me that when she went to the laundromat one day, when the pandemic was first sort of breaking out, she sneezed once in the laundromat, and there were like 10 or 15 other people around her, and they all just looked at her and visibly just backed away. And
Oh
it was sort of
shoot.
great because she likes privacy, but at the same time, I mean, I can't imagine being in that situation where everyone just sort of avoids you and is cognizant of you at every step you take.
But I think like I think if I was in their position, like I don't think like what they did was necessarily right, but where the pandemic was very new and no one knew about this and it
Right,
arose from China, like if
right,
I was in their shoes, like I would also be cautious as well. So I
right,
think
right.
I because I think there's this interesting point where there is stigmatism, but I think it's like all stigmatism isn't bad. It's just because of the information that we're presented is like what we're
Mm-hmm,
dealing with. So I think like people like being cautious towards Asian Americans, I think that's like completely like okay
mm-hmm,
because like yes, it came like it started in China, and so if you don't know about this disease and it's like starting to come over, then the first people that you want to be careful of are Asian Americans. Now, I'm not saying like if like you should harass them or like you should like yell at them like bringing
mm-hmm,
back disease, but being cautious I think is like pretty understandable. I don't know.
mm-hmm,
It's just an interesting point that I thought about.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. I actually remember like Youngjun. I remember when we were in Cleveland, and it was like the
Okay.
very beginning of the pandemic. We were about to go eat dinner at a restaurant, and like it was supposed to be a Korean restaurant or something, but then you're like, oh, actually, since it's in
Oh,
Asia Town, I don't want to go anymore. And I was like,
no,
oh,
yeah,
okay.
because like
So yeah.
my friend was saying how there was this person in Cleveland who got the or okay, I don't think like from what I remember, it's the person who eventually got the virus came to Cleveland and went back to Chicago. And then from there he tested positive. So then it's like where where's the disease or like where's the virus now? So it's but yeah, I remember like because that's around the time when I left. So a lot of people wanted to eat with me, and so, but I, I was like,
Oh wow, Mr.
we
Popular
can't
Boy
go to
over here.
Asia Town.
Mm,
Yes, yeah, very popular.
I think Cleveland was the first site of the outbreak in Ohio, right?
Yeah,
oh yeah, I think
Cuyahoga.
so.
It had like
Yeah.
100 positive cases,
Mm-hmm.
or over 100, I think. Yeah, it was
Mm-hmm.
pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Ohio's doing pretty well,
Yeah, no,
considering
I
like
think we're
compared to other
managing.
states.
Right, right, right. And I mean, it helps that we live in the Midwest, I think. Just because somewhere like New York or New York City, where everyone's so packed and together, and social distancing is harder to do, it's going to be harder to prevent the spread of the virus. But I think I think Ohio is doing pretty solid right now.
Hmm.
Uh,
I know
well,
Illinois is doing pretty bad. What?
oh, is
Were
it?
you gonna say something?
Oh, well, that's because there's Chicago, I guess.
Yeah, it's all because
Yeah,
of Chicago.
it's all because of Chicago. Yeah, no. I was gonna. I think we sort of got sidetracked for a second, but I think one of the things that you were saying, Youngjin, was that it's easy and not necessarily a bad thing that because people knew that the virus was from China, that they would avoid Asian Americans or Asians. And I think that actually brings me to one of the things I wanted to bring up about being Asian American is that we look like Asians, right? Like when someone sees us, the first thought is that we are Asian rather than Asian American. So in terms of how we are treated as in this terms of this pandemic, we're seen as Asians even before someone talks with us. So I guess that's one of the things about being Asian American is, can you guys talk about your Asian American experience and how even though we look Asian, we might be different from an Asian?
That's a pretty good point. I feel like, yeah, I can definitely talk about this and the thing is, it's different for everyone. Like, the way you're perceived, it really depends on the area you're in. So, like, my experience as an Asian American, growing up in like a very small town in Minnesota, is very different than someone who grew up in like a big city in California. Uh, but yeah, like for me, growing up in like middle school, high school, pretty much I think my defining characteristic was that I'm Asian. So like all my friends, the first thing like they would mention about me or like even when we're just joking around, it would always be like Asian things. Like, oh, like you're so smart because you're Asian, or like I don't know, just like very like stereotypical stuff. Not like mean or with bad intentions, but that was just like that was the first most prominent thing they ever saw. And
Mm,
Mm.
yeah, for me, I was like, yeah, that's cool. Like I am Asian, but I'm not like just like I'm not I am also Asian American, you know? So that was it was hard to explain, I guess, to other people who didn't
mm,
really understand like where I'm coming from.
Because it's probably like your friends in like middle school or like elementary school, like they, oh, this is a generalization, but you're probably their first like Asian friend or that like they've talked to and like they've gotten to know. So it's like you're kind of like that like defining like figure for like what it means to be like Asian, right? That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like sometimes I almost felt like I represented like all Asians, uh, just because yeah, I'm like the only one who's there.
yeah, for sure.
But okay, here's a question, right? Um, so this leads to stereotypes, but is it necessarily offensive if like a stereotype like makes you like good at something? So like for example, like the math thing, if someone says you're Asian, so you're like you must be good at math, shouldn't like that sh I don't know. That's like I hear people like even Asians talking about it both ways, saying like it's offensive versus like it can be seen as a compliment. So what are your guys' stances on those?
So I guess I guess stereotypes like that, it can have both positive and negative ramifications. So in a way, like I mean, I've had a very similar experience to Sungyun growing up while in Cincinnati. I think I had a couple more Asians in my school or Asian Americans in my school, so it was a little bit less.
You had a lot. You had a lot.
Yeah, I guess my school did have more
You
than
had a
normal, but
lot.
it still wasn't like a ton. Like I think Case Western was definitely the most exposed I've been to the Asian American culture simply because I think what 33% of our class was
23.
Asian. 23?
23.
Okay, yeah, that I mean that's still a huge number. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think I also grew up with those types of stereotypes, like, oh, you're Asian, so you must be smart, or you're Asian, so you must be good at math or science, or like your grades must be top. And I think in some regards, it made me feel good, just because I was being commended for my intelligence, right? But in other regards, as I sort of grew up, I could see where that could hold some negative ramifications. Like, not every Asian American is going to be really into the science or the maths. But the idea of a stereotype is that if you're surrounded by those stereotypes, then you're sort of pressured into fitting it. It feels unusual if you're not going with it. So even if you're not really into math or science, but let's say you're into like music or English composition or something like that, it's a bit harder for you to convince yourself or even your parents to allow you to pursue that type of passion simply because those stereotypes exist. So I think there's a really like a fine line, and I think it's sort of a double-edged sword in the regard that can have both positive and negative effects.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's like it can be perceived to both good and bad, but
Hmm.
I don't know, like I actually like my experience is very different from you guys
Oh, really?
like hearing about it. 'Cause
Hmm.
like okay, me and Jujun, we grew up in the same place. Like we grew up in the same area. So like I felt like Cincinnati, there were a lot of like people or like Asians or like
Hmm.
Koreans. Cause like for me, like I felt like I didn't really make a lot of American friends and like I really just stuck with like my like Asian friends,
Hmm.
even in elementary school through like middle school. I think it was only when I moved to Dayton that I really felt this like distinction. But
Mm.
even then, like I still predominantly hung out with like Asians. So like even like growing up, like I didn't really hang out with a lot of like American people. Like, but I still feel like I identify myself as an Asian American. But I don't think it's like kind of like confusing for me. But I think it's confusing for everyone. Um, uh, about like being Asian American because it's kind of like if you're on a spectrum, like how like Asian are you versus like how American are you with like the blend together. So
Hmm.
like what percentages do you guys think you are like Asian American? And there might not even be a percentage, but I mean I think for me, I think I'm like 60% Asian, like 40% American. Just because I identify myself more in the Asian aspect than the American.
Hmm. That's a hard question. I feel like it depends on how you define like which parts are more Asian. Like for me, uh, I feel like a lot of my culture, in terms of like how I approach people and like respecting elders and things like that, I'm very Asian. But then in terms of like being good at speaking Korean, for example, I'm not that great. And so
Mm.
it's like it's kind of hard to say. Like I can't put a
Yeah, it's like
number to it, I guess.
it's a I think it's a pretty like wide spectrum, so it's like everyone's on a different path, but like we're all still considered Asian American.
Yeah,
Um
and I think I think that's exactly why I'm proud to be Asian American, and like why I think anyone who is multi-ethnic should be proud, or if they're a mix, because you just absorb so many different aspects of culture, and I honestly think that in this world, the more you're able to learn about other cultures, about other social behaviors, and just being cognizant of that is it just provides benefits to you. It just helps you be more accepting of others and also just creates you as a more diverse individual. And I'm really proud that I am able to say that I'm part American and part Asian. Um, I think with regards to your question, Youngjun, I also don't really have a percentage to give, but I would probably say I've been a lot more exposed to American culture rather than Asian culture, simply because when I go back to South Korea to visit my family, it does feel a bit alienating for me just because I mean I don't speak Like, you guys have both heard my Korean. Like, it's pretty.
It's so good. It's so good.
Wait,
Okay.
dude,
It's
your Korean is
actually
actually good.
it's
No,
so
no, no.
good.
It's
So good.
you can
He's
just
just being
hear
modest, folks.
the
Audience
is-
members.
viewers
He's
can
just being
obviously
modest. He's just
hear
being really
the
modest.
sarcasm
All right,
dripping
wait.
from Youngjun.
Okay. Explain. Okay, just try explaining this in Korean, and then like
No,
we'll
no,
just
no,
judge it
no,
right
no,
now.
no, no one's gonna hear my Korean right now.
We'll
I'm
just
gonna
oh, no.
actually, I'm gonna.
The
Huh?
viewers have a right to
No,
hear
no.
your Korean.
We'll do this another day when Youngjun decides to rap for us. But
Okay.
getting back to my
Mm.
point. Yeah, so it's like I would go to, for example, like there's this really famous shopping place in Seoul that I go to a lot. It's called Gosok Terminal, but it's basically like this underground shopping center in like the middle of Seoul where like you do a lot of like really cheap shopping. Like a lot of college students go there. There's pretty good food venues and things like that. And I remember I was going to go grab this. I saw like this really nice sweater jacket at one of the stalls, and there was like a harmony, like a Korean grandmother. We just call sort of like elderly woman in Korea, I guess, like a harmony. Um, but I approached her and I was like, "Oh, like how much is this sweater jacket?" And she immediately saw through my Korean and she's like, "Oh, you're not from here, right?" And I was like,
Oh.
"Oh, yeah, you got
Oh,
me."
shoot.
It's like my accent is like I might have some of the grammar down for being Korean, but with regards to how much I've spoken English throughout my life, I live or I speak with an English accent. So no matter where I go in Korea, it's very easy to tell that I am not exactly like everyone else there. So just being exposed to that type of nature, I think I've always grown up a bit more American than Asian. But I still think that being multi-ethnic, I think I'm proud to be that even in Korea, just because I think I get to bring some unique experiences that people around me don't have.
Mhm.
Dude, that's the worst feeling. Like when you're trying to like speak Korean, but then like they immediately are like, oh, like if you go to a restaurant and you're like trying to order in Korean, but then they respond in English, it's like,
Dude.
oh, oh, you know.
Dude, I have like okay, so this past year when I went to Korea, me and my friend who's like Korean, like he went to the military, he lives in Korea. So we went to Hongdae, which is like, you know, or the hot places where young people go, right?
Yeah, isn't that
And
where
so Huh?
Oh no, that's Itaewon. Never mind. Never mind.
Itaewon is
Okay,
Itaewon.
All right,
I
keep going.
see.
Keep going.
So like there's this like really cool I remember like virtual reality like store where you can go and like you can experience VR through like rides and stuff. And so like I remember like when we went there, like the person just like started speaking English to us. Like and this is with my friend who's like super like Korean. And I was just like it just that happened so many times that like it's never happened to me before like when I went to Korea because I was like anytime I went to Korea it was like pretty obvious that people recognize me as Korean but like I think as like we age and like times are changing like cultures are changing it's becoming like more and more like distinct like because I think when I kind of view this as like a tree and like the as time goes by like you have branches growing but like that's how I view like culture and like the Asian American, I think it's becoming its own little branch compared to like just being American and just being like Korean. Because like as you like grow more and more, it just I just feel this like distinction.
Mm, yeah.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah, that's yeah.
Wow.
No, and no, I agree with you. And I also think that just with more and more people traveling between countries these days, and even in Korea, like there's a huge a tourism aspect where a lot of internationals do come in. I feel like just people immediately just talking English could also just be instead of like them assuming that you're full Korean, it might be safer to assume that you're Asian American. But yeah, no, I think you bring up some good points, Youngjun.
I mean, yeah, but Yeah, but it was a very like eye shocking thing because I never thought it like I would be perceived as more American, let alone with my friend. So, but that was a very interesting like moment when I realized like I remember okay when I went to Korea, I saw my cousin who I haven't
Hmm.
seen in like 4 years. She like sat me down like because like we just wanted because it was really hot. It was during the summer and we went to like this what is it like sweet shop and so
Hmm.
like we got some desserts and then she like told me she's like oh you don't you don't look like you're from here. I'm like what the frick? That's the first thing you say to me. What? And so yeah, I remember like even starting after that, like my relatives are like, oh, like, oh, that's very interesting. Like, you don't really look like you're from here. I'm like,
Well, so
dang,
what did you ever ask them why they said that, or like what part of you makes you look
yeah,
American,
yeah. Oh, well, so they didn't say I was American, but they
or
didn't
like
say I was Korean.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, what spawned that
I
comment?
think the biggest thing was, like Koreans nowadays are super like pale, right? I was like kind of dark.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like the biggest thing, and I have like really big eyes, which is not a, like a common feature in like
Mm-hmm.
Korean society. Well, it is becoming more prevalent because it's popular, but
Mm-hmm.
like it just I don't think I look as Korean, but I mean that's okay. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can.
I
It
mean, yeah,
doesn't matter.
there's a bunch of ways. Whenever I went to Korea and asked my friend, like, I would ask all of my Korean friends just to like, poll them and see what they thought. I would ask all of them like, hey, can you recognize that I'm not Korean? And like 100% of them said yes. They're like, oh yeah, I would immediately know. So there's definitely something. I think one of them mentioned like my hair
Mm-hmm.
was too short. Like most Koreans like to
Oh
have longer
yeah,
hair, like guys as well.
I
So that
guess
was one thing.
everyone's going after that BTS trend.
Yeah,
the BTS.
actually,
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm growing my hair out right now.
So you was
Wait, same.
inspired.
Wait, me too. I'm actually
Well,
growing
okay,
my hair out as
I'm
well.
growing out my hair too, but that's just because I can't get a haircut right now.
Okay, yeah, that's a different reason. You also there's also needs to be some grooming that needs to be involved that you haven't done that you can very much do.
For with regards to what Youngjun's talking about, Youngjun just saw me after I didn't shave for like a month or something like that. But I did shave after that just because I had to see some standardized patients for medical school.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
Are there any like pictures or photos,
oh gosh, no.
videos?
Oh, dude,
I
I have it.
remember
I have it.
I no no no. I was holding a seminar for my med school, and we all had our video cameras open. And one of my friends was on it. And at the end of the seminar, I was like talking to my friend. I was like, "Oh, hey, did you see that new beard I'm growing out?" He was like, "Wait, what beard?" I was like, "All right, it's time that this comes
Oof,
off."
oof.
Yeah, no, but it's all good. No, but actually, I was gonna bring up. I was gonna say something about what Sungin was talking about. Um,
Like how you
uh,
can recognize
Oh,
non-Koreans?
no, because you're talking about like hair. Oh yeah, yeah. No, I was going to talk about what other things that they might have mentioned other than hair. Because I know,
Oh,
yeah, I know for me, dark skin was one of them. Just because I think living in America, you're really it's thought to that you if you have tanner skin, you have healthier skin, but it's like opposite than that of Asia.
Oh,
Like if you go to
yeah.
China or Korea, it's like the paler you are, um, the that's what's more accepted there. So for me, who's a bit more tan, I used to play a lot of tennis growing up, so I used to have all the farmer tans and things like that. It was a bit weird for me to go to Korea because I would definitely like get a couple of weird looks, especially because I used to have acne too, or I used to have really bad acne. And because skincare is so important there, it wasn't just walking around amongst the sea of people who had like really pale faces and really clean complexions. It was a bit of a strange environment for me.
mm,
Mhm. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, we got off we got off topic. But that's
Yeah,
okay.
we did.
That's
We
okay.
did.
This is fun. But I think some people like are kind of curious to know. But like, I mean, when we talk about like Asian American, like I think in America, like one of the defining features, and even in like other places, is this Asian glow. And so like, so my question is like, how bad is your Asian glow?
Wait. So I guess first of all, what is Asian? Because not everyone might know, and
Right. Okay.
let's define the term first.
So Asian glow is when your body cannot digest alcohol, and so your blood vessels dilate, and so with that, your face and like your other body areas like start getting more red, indicating this dilation. And so it just means that, some people cannot handle their alcohol. And and your answers, I will say if it's true or false because I can attest to it.
Okay, but yeah, so it's basically like I think the Asian genome is sometimes missing this enzyme for digesting alcohol. And like I don't know how much percentage of the population, but definitely in a significant portion of the Asian population, they can't digest this. So their faces just glow red sometimes. But it's also sort of a spectrum because I've seen people even without the enzyme who like don't glow that much, but then some people who like after they drink one beer, it looks like
They get really
they're
red. They're like
yeah,
tomato.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. But um, sorry, what was your question,
All right.
Youngjun?
All right.
How
Asian
how
glow or not?
So I have zero Asian glow. Like if I ever drink, you cannot tell that I have had any alcohol because it's
That is a lie.
completely
That is a lie.
non-existent.
That is a
It's like
lie.
I'm not even
All right.
Asian.
Hey viewers, this is a lie. I just want our viewers to know the truth, and that is a lie.
Hmm.
I have photo evidence. I have photo
That's okay.
evidence.
That's okay. We don't need to talk about our drinking habits on this.
That's why there's a podcast.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
show photo evidence.
Yeah, you can't show
Okay.
any visual evidence.
I think that our Instagram, if people on our Instagram followers want it, then we gotta give the people what they want. And so
Mm.
if you guys haven't done so already, please follow us. We're on Instagram now. I think we're called the What's Up Podcast, but you'll see the logo. You'll know what it is. But please follow us. Yeah, please spread the love out to anyone else who wants to listen to it. I think our last topic that we wanted to talk about was like building up spice tolerance. So June, do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. So, I guess to start off, do you guys know what Pruduck is?
Yes.
Oh, I had it yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's like this really, really spicy chicken ramen. I guess I don't know if that does it justice. It's like a ramen that has a very spicy chicken flavored paste. And if you ever see like a chicken on fire on a black film of a ramen in the supermarket when you pass by and it's in foreign language, it's probably Pruduck. I highly recommend that you pick one up and try it for yourself. But that's quite an experience, and there's no doubt that we as Asian Americans, or at least myself as an Asian American, I adhere to that part of Asian culture where I love spicy food. So yeah, so I guess you build spice tolerance just over growing accustomed to that kind of food and just eating it all the time. But I highly recommend trying Pruduck. It's spicy, but it's good too.
Make sure you have like milk or like something if it's your first time eating it, because if you're not used to spicy food, you'll definitely be like pleasantly surprised.
Yes. We don't want any lawsuits coming at us over the next week because you ended up in the hospital. So please
True.
just eat it in limited amounts or however much you can handle.
It's like we started off like when we were so young because we started off with like kimchi, right? So it's like we had
Exactly,
like
yeah.
many years to develop. So I think like it's a very like your spice tolerance will develop as you keep growing and like trying to explore different spices. So I would say just like keep eating the product and like you know, but don't eat too much, because you gotta stay healthy during these
Yeah.
times. But I think that's it. Do you guys have any last remarks for today?
I don't think so. I think I do want to say one of the biggest benefits of being Asian American is that you get to enjoy both Asian food and American food. So that's a huge
Oh,
plus.
yes.
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 Because I mean, I love Korean food. I don't think I could survive on it every day though. So I like a bit of diversity in my food choices as well.
Chipotle with kimchi.
Actually, that goes surprisingly well. I'm not
It
gonna lie.
does.
Like, I
But
think Korean and Mexican food blend together surprisingly well. Um, but yeah, that's
isn't a burrito and taco a California thing? I or like an American thing? I heard it was invented in America.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. Yeah.
But okay, yeah, that's. Songy, do you have anything else?
I don't have anything else.
All right, but so okay, once again, thank you guys for listening. Please follow us on Instagram. Hit us up with any DMs if you have any questions regarding our previous podcasts. But till next time, see you.
Bye, guys.
Bye everyone. Bye everyone. Bye everyone. Bye everyone.